Hello everyone and welcome back to our 9-month adventure around the world. And today we're in one of the wonderful European capital cities, Stockholm, where we're going to show you the sights, sounds, and activities, and you're going to get your 70s on.
Welcome to Living Phase 2.
Hi, I'm Mike.
And I'm Nancy, and we're empty nesters striving to live life to the fullest.
And we are living that full life, going all the way around the world and taking 9 months to do it on the ultimate world cruise.
Well, we are, friends, and today we're in Stockholm, Sweden. Now, Stockholm is in the southeast side of Sweden, but to get there, you kind of have to go up and around and through a little channel to get there. And so that made the sail in to be absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, we've been ranking some of these sail-ins like Montenegro and some of those. This was certainly top
Gorgeous.
5 sail-ins. So if you are taking a cruise ship into Stockholm, be sure to get up early, find out when you're going to be going through the channel, you're going through all those areas, and don't miss it because it is beautiful. In fact, we'll just cut away and let you see a little bit of the sail-in here.
Yes, that was really beautiful. And during the sail-in, we got to see the Nakastrand Fountain, which is, it stands for God the Father on the rainbow, and God is surrounded by stars. That was really beautiful to see.
Except for the bird that made a nest up in one of the stars.
And we also saw some replicas of the statues that were on Easter Island. So very, very cool sail-in to see.
And by the way, those statues light up at night, but since we were there in the morning, we couldn't see that. We didn't know that at first.
Yes. So, well, tell them about when you arrive there, when the ship actually arrives. How do we get to our next destination?
Right, so the ship is not right downtown like we are in some places. It's out at the cruise ship port or the cruise ship terminal. And what you can do is you can take a bus, you can walk into town, or you can take water taxis. Now, these water ferries or water taxis are prevalent all throughout Stockholm, because Stockholm is a whole series of rivers and islands and canals, and so these taxis go all over the place. And there's one of them that docks right next to the cruise ship, and that's the Emelie. Now, the Emelie will take you then into town, and it takes you right to where we're trying to go, and that's on one of the islands where all of the, well, not all, but many of the main attractions are. So things like the Abba Museum, the Vasa Museum, there's the amusement park there.
A lot to see. So that stop is called the De Jour Gardens. So that's what you're going to want to watch for if you're on the Emelie line and you're wanting to go to all of these places.
Right. So, and you really can't miss it because you'll see the amusement park right there. It's the one that stops right at the amusement park. So that is probably the easiest way to get into town from the cruise ship. Again, you really don't need a tour here because everything is so easily accessible. Just do a little bit of research, use our video here, and look up some of the things that you want to go see.
And just as a side note, the cost on the water taxis is approximately $7 US for a one-way ticket, or $10 for all day. So it's reasonable to get around.
Right. Well, we hopped off the Emelie and we were right there at the amusement park. And it's interesting. We actually did take our children to this amusement park 25 years ago when we were on a Scandinavian tour when we lived over here. So it was interesting. It's certainly grown.
Yeah.
And it's a nicer day. I think if I remember right, it was quite the rainy, kind of cold day when when we were up there. But yeah, we didn't go into the park, but they also do have an Abba experience. They've got an Abba dinner that you can go have there if you don't want to necessarily just go as the amusement park. But yeah, it's a very nice Scandinavian amusement park. But we were on a mission to go see the Vasa Museum. Now, the Vasa was a ship that was supposed to be the flagship of the Swedish Navy. And in 1628, it went out on its maiden voyage, made it 1.5 miles, and sunk in the Stockholm harbor here. So it was really a sad event. In fact, 30 people perished when this ship sunk. And it was just so unstable. The first time a little gust of wind hit the Vasa, it tipped, floundered, and sunk. Well, the interesting part was when that happened, they kind of just forgot about it. In fact, I think they intentionally wanted to forget this terrible event happened. And so that ship sat there until the 1950s when it was rediscovered, all sunken in the mud and everything because they were doing some harbor work. And then in the 1960s, they began to actually recover it. And that went on from the 60s to the 80s. And then in the 1990s, the Vasa Museum opened where they took the entire ship and have it enclosed in this museum. And it is spectacular.
Well, it was so well preserved because when it was sunk down into the muck. And that muck just preserved it.
All the wood,
so,
yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible how much you can see of it and how well preserved it was.
Yeah, so the museum has multiple levels, so you can see, all the way down to the base of the ship where it's supported. Go up, you can get to the very highest levels in the museum and look down onto the decks, and it is really one of the best examples of a 17th century sailing ship you will ever see, and it's so well preserved.
Right. It is a good museum to go to. They've got a movie about it, so yeah, don't miss this.
Yeah, and if you do happen to have children with you, they have a whole children's area. In fact, a separate movie for children. There's a restaurant there where you can eat at. You can easily spend 2 to 3 hours going through this. And again, that's assuming you have some interest in this. But even if you don't have a naval history interest, I thought it was excellent. So
I did too. It was very good.
Yeah.
Well, now it's lunchtime.
Yep.
So we actually walked a couple of blocks to a Swedish buffet.
Yeah.
And that was it was a good stop.
Yeah, it was. So food, drink, everything. Most everything in Scandinavia, so Denmark, Sweden, Finland, Norway, very expensive. These are not inexpensive countries to tour. But one of the more affordable ways to eat and to have a meal is using a buffet where you go and just pick what you want and they ring you up at the counter. It's kind of like the old cafeterias, here in the US. And it was really wonderful. I had, of course, Swedish meatballs.
And I had a little croissant with some meat and cheese in it.
Yeah. No, I thought it was very enjoyable and rather affordable. So look for the different Swedish buffets, and they're everywhere. These cafeteria buffets is a good way to have a nice lunch and still not break the bank.
Right. Well, after lunch, it was now time to go to the Abba Museum. They are very strict on their times. You have to get reservations with a time slot and then adhere to that time slot, and they're going to watch very closely for that. We got to the Abba Museum with a little time to spare, and so attached to the museum is a little diner, and we sat down at the bar. I had a little Swedish treat. It was like a little ice cream, kind of like a little taco ice cream. It was yummy. But then we got in line and got right in.
Now you'll notice that it's pretty crowded here in line.
Yes.
And the front end where everyone's buffering up does get pretty packed. Again, a lot of people are waiting for their time to get in, and again, they're holding in those times, so it can get real crowded. The nice thing is once they let a group of people go through, it thins out fairly well. So there's still a lot of people. I mean, this is to me, unbelievably popular attraction. But it's not so bad once you get inside. And when you come in, the very first thing they talk about is there's the Abba Experience in London. And that's where the members of Abba, they put on all this motion capture stuff. And then they went and performed, but they performed and it shows them in virtual reality like they were back in the 70s.
It's crazy.
So, yeah, and they show how they did all that. But then from there, it goes immediately into the history of ABBA. Like, how did they form? What were the guys doing first? They were really in entertainment first. Then they met the girls, and how did they meet? And how did they get married? And for me, not being a real fan of ABBA, I still found it really interesting. I had a great time. I mean,
Well, I'm
yeah,
glad because I am a huge fan of ABBA.
yeah.
But they showed all of their costumes that they wore. They showed their records and their awards. And there was a lot of interactive elements in the museum. For instance, you could get up on stage and sing with them.
Kind of a virtual reality thing.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, you could go in and dress as a character. I mean, there was just a lot of different little things that you could do. And then as you continued through the museum, it continued with their lives, and so it talked about what they did after the group broke up. So what each one of those members has now done since that time.
Well, I think the interesting thing is, you said since they broke up. One of the things they talked about is they never actually broke up.
Well, they didn't.
They took a break, and they kept saying, "Oh, we're just going to take a break," and this break has lasted 40 years or something.
They did, but that both couples got divorced, and so I'm sure that had a lot to do with it.
But I enjoyed a big part of the museum watching you. I mean, you were into it. There's parts like you said where you can pretend you're like in a band and an event, and I just had a ball
because
watching
I know
you.
all the words to all the songs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and you can go into a recording booth and do that. No, it was very well done as far as the museum goes. Yeah. And if you have any interest in ABBA or just history of music, things like that, it was definitely worth seeing. It was not. To be honest, I was not necessarily looking forward to it, but I'm really glad we did it, and I had a good time.
Well, I'm glad. Very good.
Yeah. Well, after the Abba Museum, we went ahead and took another water taxi, not the Emelie, because we were not heading back to the ship. We were going to head downtown and see some more sights. So we took the water taxi to the downtown stop, got off, and just started walking the streets because we had a reservation at the world's first Ice Bar. So this is a bar where the inside is completely made of ice. It's -5 degrees. There's actually a lot of these around the world now, but this purports to be the very first one in the world, and it's actually connected to what's called the Ice Hotel, where you can stay in an ice room and all this. And so we actually met all of our friends there. We all reconvened, went in, and got ready to go into the Ice Bar. Now, the Ice Bar here is about $30. It includes one drink. It includes your parka, some gloves, and your glass made of ice. And it was a lot of fun. Now, one of the things I would say is be sure to go with friends, right? Because then you're laughing and having a good time. It's fine to go just as a couple. It's an interesting experience. But certainly moving around, talking to people, having a good time, I think that makes it a lot more fun.
They had a list of cocktails, and they were very good.
Yeah, I thought so too. I had to try the Christmas story, does your tongue stick to the ice? It does. And no, just we laughed and had a good time. There's great pictures in there. Certainly, if you like the Instagram pictures and stuff, there's plenty of that inside there too. So don't miss the Ice Bar Stockholm. That's a good one.
And we were in the Ice Bar for about 45 minutes.
Right. It is a timed experience.
That was enough time.
Right.
Yeah.
Then they weren't really kicking anybody out. I think it's a natural attrition.
Yes.
And you're in this -5 with ice in your hand and everything. Pretty much after 45 minutes, everyone's about ready to get out.
Exactly.
Well, we left the Ice Bar, and now it's time for dinner. Of course, we've had a drink and we've been in the cold, so we're looking for a place to go. So we went looking for dinner.
Well, we went to a place called Dewine, and it had good reviews, and we thought it was within walking distance. It was pizza. It looked to be reasonably priced, so we thought, well, let's give it a try. And it was a good choice because the pizza was excellent. You boys shared a big, tall pitcher. What do you call it?
Tower of beer.
Tower of beer.
Yeah, that was like fun. It's like a tap, and the nice thing there that did not just come as a tower of beer. It came with appetizers, snacks, all kinds of things. And again, because if you're going to get an alcoholic drink in a lot of the Scandinavian countries, it's so regulated that it is very expensive. This was a nice way to share, and it made it more affordable. I think it made it $8 to $10 a glass of beer or something, which still is not cheap, but it's not near as expensive as it could be. And that was a lot of fun. A couple other people had steaks there. They said those were really good. And I think somebody else had salmon or fish, and it was also, everybody said this was a great stop.
I thought it was too.
Yeah, the service was good too.
The pizzas were running about $15 to $18 there.
Right,
So.
right.
But it's time to head back to the ship because we've got a big day tomorrow in Stockholm.
Yeah.
We're going to go on a good food tour.
We are. So today was all about the sights of Stockholm. Tomorrow is about the stomach of Stockholm. And this is a foodie city. So you're not going to want to miss tomorrow when we get together and talk about what we saw, what we ate. And we had a massive variety of food. I think you're really going to enjoy seeing what we try. And we're going to have some great recommendations for you in Stockholm. And the hot dog challenge continues tomorrow.
Does.
And this is an unusual one. This one wins the prize for the most unusual hot dog on the world cruise. So,
All right, friends, you're not going to want to miss it. We'll see you very soon. Have a great day. Bye-bye now.
bye-bye now.